Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Tropical update number 33 on both Fred and Grace. Fred is now a remnant low, no watches or warnings in effect, but it is expected to become a tropical storm once again before making landfall near the Mississippi-Alabama border. Of course, that's subject to change anywhere from the Florida Panhandle to Louisiana, certainly still in play. Tropical storm Grace, a bit to the south of its original projection for where the center was until we got a plane in it. Could see exactly where the storm's going to go. All the Greater Antilles certainly in play. Yucatan, Florida, all certainly players with Grace at the moment. Let's begin with Fred. Fred, very ragged, thus a remnant low, not looking good at all. No closed off circulation. 90% chance of reformation with the next 48 hours. We'll continue to watch it. And watches will be required for Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida tonight or tomorrow, perhaps even Louisiana as well, depending on how Fred does with its process of reformation. Let's take a look here at the H-Wharf model. We see Fred gets kind of lost in the sauce there for a bit, but by the time we get to 2 days from now, it makes its way towards the Florida Panhandle as a decent tropical storm, but nothing still too crazy, but nonetheless, we can see it. We can also see Grace down there by Hispaniola, and we'll take a look at Grace here in a second as well. Most likely time of arrival for tropical storm force winds. We're looking at Monday morning for much of the Gulf Coast. A decent chance of tropical storm force winds as well. Flooding certainly going to be concerned. We see 3 to 7 isolated to 10 for the Florida Big Bend and the Panhandle, 3 to 5 for the Keys in South Florida, 2 to 4 isolated 6 for southern Alabama, 2 to 5 isolated to 8 for portions of Cuba, and 1 to 3 isolated to 5 for the Bahamas. And we can see the map below there with those current rainfall projections from the Weather Projection Center through 3 days, 5 days actually now. As we can see 3 days from now, it looks like Fred will be making landfall as, again, a minimal tropical storm, maybe a mid-grade tropical storm. But again, that landfall point somewhere between the Florida Panhandle and the Mississippi-Alabama border. Probably we're leaning more towards the Mississippi-Alabama border today as compared to the other days. We can see the intensity forecast off there to the right. Taking a look at Grace, much better than Fred, but still not a well put together storm. Tropical storm warnings for Antigua, Barbuda, and Anguilla, St. Kitts and Nevis, Montserrat, Saba, and St. Eustatius, St. Martin, St. Bartholomew, British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Tropical storm watch from the Dominican Republic from Puerto Rico on the south coast to Cabo Francis Viejo on the north coast. So still lots of watches and warnings with this storm certainly going to be impacting land. More watches will be required for the south coast, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Cuba here in the future. Again, we'll be watching this storm very closely. It's moving very quickly. We saw on the cone at the beginning, and we'll see here on the models shortly, that the storm was just off of the Lesser Antilles. It's currently located, as we can see on satellite here. You can't really see the land mass that well, but the storm is on the other side of the islands already. It's moving at 26 miles an hour, moving very quickly. Grace is going to be making its way into probably the Greater Antilles somewhere, at least very close to them. And we see this on the H-Wharf. It gets jumbled up by Hispaniola like Fred did, but it takes the south path on this particular model into the Yucatan. And I'm going to talk about, once again we look at the models here in a second, what exactly that entails. Again, tropical storm force winds possible everywhere South Florida through Cuba and the rest of the Greater Antilles. Tropical storm watches warning is in effect. Rain certainly concerned. 4 to 7 isolated 10 for Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We already got lots of rain from Fred. 3 to 6 isolated 8 for Puerto Rico. 3 to 6 for the Northern Leeward Islands and the Virgin Islands. Again, Grace is certainly going to be concerned here in the future. Taking a look at the models, we see there's 2 schools of thought, and I'm going to bring your attention down to the spaghetti models in the bottom left-hand corner. We see South Florida and Cuba is generally one cluster, and we have a second cluster located over the Yucatan Peninsula. Earlier today, the GFS was a great example of why us meteorologists can't just take all of the good models and average them together, because the GFS did this in its ensemble mean. So the GFS comes up with about 20 or so. That's what you see on the European model on the upper left-hand side of the screen. You see an ensemble. So that's the same model, but a whole bunch of different slight differences in the initial conditions with the model in how this storm could develop. So you see anywhere from the Bahamas down to the Yucatan. And so what happened was on the GFS model, the ensemble mean cut the difference and put us about where that says TVCN, that TVCN model. it took us right down the middle. Of the ensemble members, there weren't really any storms located there. There was again that cluster near the Yucatan and that cluster between Florida and Cuba. And those were the two clusters, and the mean put the storm straight in the middle. So if you know anything about a bimodal distribution, that's kind of what we had here. We had a bimodal distribution. The mean was smack dab in the center of the bimodal distribution where there's no population there. Just a fun fact about statistics there. Grace, potential for rapid intensification. We could see hurricane out of this within the next day. If not, it's going to remain a tropical storm probably through the next 4 days or so, where then it could rapidly intensify if it stays away from Cuba. If it stays away from Cuba, we could see Cat 3 or greater making its way into the Yucatan Peninsula, so we'll certainly be keeping an eye on this. Let's take a look at the overall basin for a little bit. This is GFS model. We see Fred make its way to Florida, Grace over Hispaniola. We have a little bit of a kink over the Bermuda that we're going to certainly want to watch for potential development. We see a couple more waves coming off the coast there. Taking a look at the European ensemble, lots of different solutions, of course, but we see Fred moving its way up. We see Grace making its way across the Greater Antilles. Again, that thing near Bermuda that we might want to keep an eye on. I think this might be a bit of a blip, at least in terms of intensity on the European model. But watch that. Tropical waves also coming off the coast of Africa, like Fred, like Grace. So potential development still certainly on the way. I'll have another update heading your guys' way late Sunday night, late Monday night, and then we'll resume hopefully a normal schedule beginning again Tuesday into next week, as Grace will pose a great concern from now at least until next weekend, and we could have even more storms on the way after that. Fred, of course, a concern through about Tuesday night. That's all for now. Chris Hickson of Weather Catholic Media.